1. I'm a 29-year-old man. Had to find an apartment quickly, and found a nice place with a bedroom open through this property management company. It's a place with 4 bedrooms, and they seem to have paired 4 random people together. 2 out of my 3 roommates are fine, reasonable people. But the third, 26-year-old male, is unbearable. He grew up rich and his parents pay his rent, bills, food, and give him an allowance. He works 5 hours a week at a gym, and then is at home the rest of the time. He occupies a common space almost all the time, and then talks maniacally at you if you ever dare to enter the same space. Even when no one else is there, he insists on being loud at all hours of the night. He will loudly sing or bang things around in the common space after midnight. Because of the noise he causes, I have started playing neutral YouTube videos to drown out his clamoring and help me fall asleep. He apparently doesn't like that, and has told me that he came into my room while I was sleeping to turn it off one time. He begs me to hang out with him, and I've tried to set boundaries so many times that he refuses to follow. One time, he followed me to one of my favorite bars and then tried to brag to me about how he didn't tip. He also always complains about how much he isn't getting laid, like all he'll do when we're out in public is leer at women for way too long. He's dumb too, and says some weirdly homophobic stuff. I installed a bidet and he kept making gay jokes about it, and then broke the toilet seat somehow and tried to blame the bidet. One time we asked him to take out the trash, and he threw the entire trash can away. He then didn't replace it for 2 weeks because he didn't know where they sold trash cans. The only place he checked was Muji, which is a store that sells fancy Asian stationery. One time he couldn't figure out how to put batteries in the smoke detector, and started screaming and banging on my door at 5 a.m. on a Sunday morning. He woke not only me up, but everyone else in the apartment. He will often freak out and start screaming, arguing, or being generally belligerent. He told me he stopped taking his medication, and the outbursts have just gotten more frequent since then. He'll often start cooking food late at night too, and his cooking is a whole other problem. He'll use metal utensils directly onto non-stick, and even after I told him not to, he continued to, and ruined one of my pans. He never cleans up after himself. He will leave dirty dishes not even in the sink but on the stove. We have a dishwasher. Furthermore, he'll leave scraps of food, eggshells in the sink, when we don't have a garbage disposal. Sometimes he'll start cooking something and then just give up and go to sleep. So now there's ice cream left open on the counter, or crumbs everywhere, or wrappers for food laying around. This isn't always limited to the kitchen. He will leave crumbs, random food and wrappers all over the common space. He's been sick the last couple of days, so he's been leaving dirty tissues he's blown his nose into everywhere as well. It's gotten to the point where the other 2 roommates don't use the kitchen or common space at all. Also, he can't eat without smacking his lips, and that drives me insane. He does it so loudly, too, that I can hear him eating when I'm in my room with the door closed. There's so much more that he does that drives me insane, but I'd be typing for hours. I don't know what to do. I've tried to set boundaries. I've tried to talk to him about his uncleanliness. I'm considering complaining to the landlord, but I don't know what that would do. He's on the lease as much as I am. Maybe I can ask them if I can rent a room from another one of their properties. It sucks because I really do like the apartment and location. I just can't stand him. He has driven 2 previous roommates to move out already. What do I do to end this? To preface, I'm a 21-year-old man, have lived in this city for 4 years, the first 2 being with a cousin, 25 and female. The 3rd year we moved out on our own, and due to family troubles, my cousin's cousin, Hadley, 25 and female, moved away from home and to this city with our mutual cousin. After living together for 2 years, Hadley moved a man, 30, from another state in with them, that she knew over FaceTime for a couple of months. Our mutual cousin, the one I lived with, decided to move out on her own again. During the 2 years that Hadley was down there, we became close, got jobs together, and decided to go back to school together. We were planning on going into the nursing program together, which is why, when our mutual cousin moved out, Hadley suggested that we move in together, so that we didn't have to pay full rent while trying to put ourselves through school. So I move in. First week is great, and we're all ha-ha, hee-hee, and everything seems like it's gonna be chill. Then I had a trip to Colorado where I sustained a brown recluse spider bite on my hand, which left me basically one-handed as I was in so much pain. When I returned, they were aware of the bite and that I wasn't able to clean up the kitchen, really, and was ordering takeout for a while since I couldn't cook my own meals. I'm a chef, by the way. They refused to clean up after themselves, even though I wasn't really using the kitchen, and the groceries that I did have, they got into even after multiple times of setting that boundary. So I just ate mainly takeout because I'm not buying groceries for a household of 3 very capable adults. They started moving weird, like going to our hometown to visit family, and not even telling me they would be gone, eating more of my groceries, and even straight up walking past and ignoring me on their way out the door. So at this point, I'm looking for a new place because I'm not dealing with this BS anymore. So last week of the month, and I receive a message from the front office asking why rent hasn't been paid. Since Hadley and her boyfriend were on the lease first, they had all the login and portal info, so I wasn't even aware that rent wasn't paid. I started tripping because why when you ask for $450, I sent it immediately without question, and now I'm being asked why rent isn't paid. I'm dumbfounded, angry, and losing my mind. I start messaging, calling, and even knocking on their bedroom door with no replies to anything. After me blowing up their phones, I received a message hours later from Hadley saying that they already talked to the office and they're aware of everything, and that they were asleep. But pop off, IG. Saying I was overreacting, basically. But okay, if they already spoke to the office, I'm assuming everything is handled. So imagine my surprise the following Monday when we are served an eviction notice. I went to the office immediately and let them know the situation. They escalated my claim up to the owners who live in a different state, and they said they would work with me so that I was able to stay in the apartment. I just needed to come up with the full month's rent in 72 hours, or they'll be forced to push the eviction through. I have perfect rental history, and I'm not letting 2 grown muggle-fudgers ruin my life. For the next 7 years or so it takes to get a decent lease in your name after an eviction. Pop off, IG. So, bet I will. Advice from the office was to pretend that I was packing my things and let them think that we were all evicted so they could vacate the property. And I will switch the lease into my name after they're gone. The day before our 72 hours were up, they had the audacity to ask me if there was any way I was able to pay the full month's rent. Where did the money go that I gave you? So that they didn't have to make plans to move. In that moment, I was filled with so much rage that they were just so comfortable ruining all our lives because, get this, they have both been unemployed since the beginning of the month, and our communication was lacking so severely that they didn't even mention it the times we did talk. So I told them, "We're all screwed. It's your fault. Your lack of communication has landed us here, and I'm not in a position to dig us out." So I followed the advice from the office. They moved out and back to our hometown, probably derailing her schooling, and now I have a 2-bed, 2-bath apartment all to myself that I didn't even want in the first place. But am I in the wrong for letting my roommates think we were evicted so that I could live alone again? Not feeling remorseful, just want outside opinions. Hellfreezer's note: no, you're not, and those creeps owe you money, don't forget that. Definitely look into legal action to get it back. 3. So I have been living at the same apartment for about 10 years. I have a great relationship with the landlord, always pay rent on time, etc. I was living with my brother and a foreign exchange student who was a fantastic roommate. We thought he was going to stay another year and re-sign the lease, but he was forced to go back to his country, leaving us 4 weeks to find someone. I asked Facebook for help, and I was sent this miserable excuse for a human being. I'll do my best to summarize living with him. 1, extremely confrontational and aggressive about, well, everything. 2, demanded things be in a certain place, whether they were his or not. If they are in the wrong place, he would move them or throw them out without telling you. 3, refused to pay rent on time. 4, needed the heat at a certain level but refused to pay for it. 5, wouldn't let us use light switches. Yes, if you wanted a light on, you needed to ask Siri. If you flipped a light switch, it was the same as murdering his cat in his eyes. 6. Stole possessions and held them hostage until we gave in to his demands, which we never did. 7. Hired a cleaning service when we specifically said not to, and threatened to take us to court when we said we wouldn't pay for a service we didn't want. 8. Smoked so often that his coughing, retching, and vomiting was heard clearly throughout the house, every single day. 9. Needed dance music cranked every morning to get pumped for the day. 10. Refused to throw out his dead cat's used litter box for months after it died. He just couldn't, and said that the crap-filled litter box needed to stay in the kitchen. 11. Whenever I asked him for rent, I was told, "I won't discuss rent until we discuss," and it was often something like the Febreze in the bathroom is too strong. 12. Oh yeah, he's sensitive to smells, so he demanded I throw out scented trash bags and buy new ones. Also, I needed to buy new Febreze plugins because they made him dizzy. 13. We needed to move my cat's food bowl because it was up against a wall, and due to ADHD, he hugs walls when he walks. 14. Despite needing the heat cranked and not paying for it, we would often have a window open with the fan on. 15. Speaking of the window opened, he charged his electric car with a cord he ran out of his window from a standard outlet in the house, which made our electric bill quadruple. 16. He often had his homeless mother crash on my couch in the living room without asking, and treated her like crap, calling her rude names, to the point where I even apologized to her. 17. We came home from work to find him passed out drunk in my brother's bed, which he refused to apologize for. 18. Tried to claim a window fan was his own, despite my having photographic evidence otherwise. Tried to get me to pay for it. 19. He left without paying any of his bills, about $170, despite saying, "I would never do that. I'm not an a-hole." 20. Finally, the police interaction. My toaster oven sat on the kitchen counter. That's where it goes. He demanded it be put high above the cabinets, claiming he needed all the counter space for cooking. I said no, and please don't touch it. He moved it back up high and even scraped the paint off the ceiling. I moved it back. He went to go move it back while I was awake, and I yelled at him to not having touch it. He said, "Watch me," and went to move it. I took it from him, which caused him to throw hands up like a soccer player and fall backwards. He called the police. The police were trying not to laugh about the whole thing and took very little information and left. Then I get a knock on my door. It's the officer again. The idiot called him back to ask me to give him more counter space. No lie. I showed the officer all the space available while laughing, and the officer said, "Yep, that's plenty." And that was that. He broke his lease early, illegally, and left us with utility bills. We didn't even care because he was finally gone. All anxiety removed. I'm a 20-year-old female, and my boyfriend is 21. We've been dating for 4 years, and we've been living together for 2 years now. We decided to renew our current lease and replace our old roommate, they moved out on their own, with my boyfriend's childhood friend. They've been friends since elementary school. My boyfriend wanted him to move in because he's been trying to get out of his living situation with his family. There's been a couple of problems since we started living together. My boyfriend's friend, Hippo, is the type of person who wants to be desperately loved. He's been super desperate about finding a girlfriend. He's also the type of person to ghost his friends and not care about anybody else, and focus on his relationship when he gets in one. Not even a month into moving in, my boyfriend and Hippo went into a GameStop and he started chatting up this girl. I guess they're alike and they have a lot in common. A week later, he brought her into our house and has already started talking about moving her in. Mind you, this is a complete stranger. We've made it clear we're very uncomfortable with that, especially since they've only known each other for about a week. But it gets worse. From March 2024 till this day, she's been coming over non-stop, and it's extremely frustrating because she made such a bad impression the first time she came to our house. She acted like she's been living here and has no respect for us at all. Also, last month we mentioned that we don't want her moving in, and if he could wait till the lease is over so that they could move on their own. So recently she's been having these stomach problems or issues. And I believe she's sick, but she's been going to the bathroom non-stop, and I'm not sure why she's not at her own home because me and my boyfriend feel that Hippo is completely forgetting the fact that he shares a space with us. We feel like we have to accommodate for her in our own home. For example, my boyfriend got home from work and he usually takes a shower because he gets really dirty and icky from work. But he said that she's been in the bathroom for a long time, and when he was about to take a shower, she knocked on the door and had to use the bathroom again. This feels like an everyday thing where we have to stop our comfort in the bathroom and let her use it. On top of that, me and my boyfriend buy all the house necessities like toilet paper and paper towels. I swear to you, this girl uses like 75% of the toilet paper that we buy, and they don't replenish it at all. To add on, as we said to him, we're not comfortable with her moving in. She's a complete stranger to us, and she's just rude without trying. He said that's okay, and she's gonna be sleeping over once a month, but dude, she has not been going home at all. I don't even remember the last time she went home. But on top of that, makes me and my boyfriend super uncomfortable that Hippo gives her the keys to come in and out of our house like she owns the place. She even stays over when no one is home, and I'm like, WTF. Also, these people have really bad hygiene. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything, but they stink. Every time she gets out of the bathroom, the toilet smells like straight BO. They aren't very clean at all, and leave the kitchen a mess. They do a bad job of the dishes and a bad job of cleaning. But my boyfriend is also mad that after she came into his life, he started getting worse, like he doesn't take care of himself, doesn't shower, work out, etc. We thought he was going to better himself until this girl came into his life. Also, the first time he mentioned that he wants to move her in, he said that it would be great if he only paid $400 and she paid the other $400. He moved in with us knowing that he has the responsibility of paying rent himself, and he pays it at the very last minute and in cash, so we would have to deposit it at the very last minute. Are me and my boyfriend in the wrong for feeling this way? Hell freezers, no, definitely not, and you need to make sure she no longer has access to your apartment. Nobody but the people paying rent there should have keys. If he's giving his keys to her, you need to set the boundary on that. Also, I think most places will have a stipulation as to how long guests can stay. Worth checking your lease for that too. 5. Every time I tell this story, I realize just how absolutely crazy it sounds, but here goes. Names changed for confidentiality. I moved to Australia, alone from Scotland, and met a roommate online prior to moving. A lady, Jane, was the main tenant and the other guy lived in the third room, Mark. I hardly ever saw Mark, and when we did cross paths, Jane would suddenly appear and take one of us away to separate us. Strange, but I let it go. Jane told me she'd got her and I tickets to a country music festival in the Australian outback as a welcome gift for me in a couple of months' time. I thanked her and thought I'd check it out online nearer the time. However, Jane started smoking weed and things became even stranger. One night I was trying to sleep for work the next day, and I heard barking in the backyard. Thinking it was just the dogs, I went out to see if I could calm them down, but they were barking at Jane, and she was barking back at them like proper ruff sounds. I asked her if she could keep the noise down a bit and casually walked away, pretending to be unfazed. Things got stranger. I could hear her in her room next to mine, talking to the TV. Again, let it slide. My job was full on and was trying to focus on that and the positives of Australian beach life. A few nights later, I woke to scratching noises on the bottom of my door. I opened it to see there was some kind of wild Australian animal outside my room, to find Jane lying on the floor scratching it. I confronted her this time and told her she was creeping me out. She said I creeped her out and she had an angel between our rooms to protect us as I was the devil. I slowly closed the door again and went back to bed as she continued to lay on the floor and scratch. The next week she came home from work and I noticed she dyed her hair the same color as mine. I saw the box in the bathroom and it was the exact same color and brand I used. I sat down to have a talk with her and said I wanted to get to know her a bit better, trying to piece the puzzle together. She told me she was doing some babysitting and had fallen in love with the kid's dad. However, she found out that day she had been sacked by the family, as the wife said she was acting like his wife, even when she wasn't around. She said this was untrue, but alarm bells were ringing very loud. She told me she had a new job in the city, but I saw her walking around the streets near our house a lot. I finished work a few hours before her, while she was meant to be in the city. Eventually, one day she was out of the house, and I managed to speak to Mark. He said he should have warned me. She gets like this when she smokes weed and it's not good for her. All of a sudden, she burst in the house and started repeating our whole conversation. I started to feel like I was insane as Mark and I checked the house for any hidden cameras. Lo and behold, we found one in the living room. I confronted her, and she seemed to take it okay at the time. However, the next day when I was at work, she went in my bedroom and went through all my belongings and made a mess. At first I thought we had been broken into as my letters and personal things were all over the floor. I checked and my passport was missing. At this point I was scared to even talk to her and text her asking for my passport back. She denied it for 2 days, then all of a sudden it appeared on my table in a see-through wallet with a smiley face on it. Now I was really freaked. The next week she messaged me to say she had paid for the hire car to take me out 6 hours to the country festival which was happening the following week. I had completely forgotten about it and started to panic and tried to come up with a good excuse not to go. I just felt bad she paid the car hire. I began to tell myself even though she was strange, she wasn't harmful in any way. She collected the hire car for our trip the next day, and thank the Lord I googled the festival that time and realized it did not exist. I told her I wasn't going even though she kept saying it was a secret festival. Oh, apparently Kelly Clarkson was headlining. So why on earth would that be kept secret and not advertised? I stood my ground and said no. That's when things really escalated. I came home from work, I had been texting her about it all day, even told her I'd refund the car hire money. As I walked in the door, she ran at me with an empty wine bottle and threw it. I ducked and it hit the wall. I managed to get out of the house and call the police, who told me she was well known to mental health services. The community mental health team came out and got her straight away, as she was trying to get in her car drunk. I told them everything that happened, and they said she should never have been living with people who were unaware she was unwell, and she definitely shouldn't have been working with children, as she had a bit of a violent history. They gave me and Mark time to collect our things and get out of there, and we moved to a place together in a different suburb. I still wonder about her and if she's okay in life to this day. She has schizophrenia, and I do feel for her. However, I had to block her on everything for my own safety. As much as I still care for her well-being, I do still wonder why she was taking me alone 6 hours into the outback to a non-existent music festival. It's literally the wildest story, and sometimes I have to shake myself to remember it was actually real. But it was. And she's still out there somewhere. My friends in Scotland remind me I moved to Australia for an adventure. Well, I sure got one. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Bad Roommates episode 39. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories. Before you go, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and support me on my Patreon page, which is linked in the description, right at the top. If you do that, you get all the videos early at once on a Monday. Which reminds me, this is Monday, I need to upload them, so I will do that when I'm done here. Okay, no other business today, so let's move along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is: when watching TV, listening to music, do you prefer to have a good set of speakers, surround sound, whatever fancy system you can, or do you much more enjoy wearing headphones? I'm definitely a headphones person, partly because I like to have things cranked up loud, and I'm always concerned I might annoy the neighbours. Although, to be honest, my singing might annoy them occasionally, but the walls are quite thick here, so hopefully not too much. The only time I don't really wearing headphones when I'm listening to something is if I have something on my phone at night when I'm in bed, like an audiobook or a podcast, something like that, just to kind of like help me wind down as I drift off to sleep. Let me know what you think in a comment below. And before we go, let's take a look at the answer of the day from a previous video. And we'll actually take this one from Idiots in the Wild 129. And let's see, this one, I think this was about favorite smoothie recipes, I believe that was. It was a while back. So today's answer comes from Jessica Fowler. A few teaspoons of peanut butter, stevia, cocoa, milk, yogurt, banana, berries. Yum! Thank you very much for your recipe, Jessica. And with that, I'm going to head off for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.